Today we're making arroz a la mexicana, or Mexican style rice, often called Spanish rice. This is the stuff you'll find in your favorite Mexican restaurant, but it is so easy to make it at home. Plus, I've got a tip if you, like me, have folks in your family who don't like stuff in their rice. This will give you all the flavor of the onion and garlic without having to pick pieces of it out of your little one's rice. So, let's get cooking. We'll start by heating 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil in a pan on medium heat. And we can use any pan or pot that has a tight-fitting lid and will accommodate about 3 cups total of rice. So the only exception to that might be cast iron. We're using tomato paste in this recipe, and the acidity of tomatoes is sometimes rough on the finish of a cast iron pan. So if you are going to be making this rice for folks who don't like stuff in their rice, the next thing you will do is add a few large chunks of onion. This is half of a medium onion to that oil. Maybe I'll set that cut side in so it starts to flavor the oil. And 2 or 3 cloves of garlic, whole or smashed a bit, so mine fell apart a little bit when it got smashed. I'm going to add that as well. Now, if you don't mind stuff in your rice, you can definitely dice that onion and mince the garlic, in which case we will add the onion first, but wait on the garlic. All right. And so while that starts to flavor our oil, we'll talk about rice. We're using 1 cup of plain old long grain white rice, whatever variety you like, anything but short grain rice. You could also use brown rice if you wanted. And what we'll do with that cup of rice is rinse it before we put it in the pan. And when recipes ask us to do that, it is just to rinse off some of the starch on the outside of the grains of rice, which keeps our rice from sticking to itself as it cooks. And that's a pretty common instruction in lots of rice recipes. All right, and when we rinse the rice, you can do that by just putting it in a small bowl, or I've got, for my 1 cup of rice, a 2-cup mixing cup, and I just run water over it and then pour it through a small strainer until the water that's running off of the rice starts to come out, not entirely clear, but mostly clear. And then I know I've kind of removed enough of that starch to make the rice work in my recipe. All right. And now what we'll do is we're going to put that uncooked rice directly in the oil. A little bit of a sizzle. And a few rice grains popping. And we will stir the rice to make sure that it's evenly coated in the oil. And we'll let that cook for a couple of minutes until the rice grains start to appear translucent around the edges. And once they do, we'll move on to our tomato paste. If it seems like they're sticking a lot, especially if you're not using a nonstick pan, as here I'm just using a regular pan, it starts to stick too much, we can add a little bit more oil, but don't worry, it'll all be good. After a few minutes of cooking, my rice grains are starting to look translucent at their edges. So I'm going to add my next ingredient, which is tomato paste. You're going to use 1 to 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. If you've got a tube of the double concentrated stuff, 1 tablespoon is good. Otherwise, you'll want about 2 tablespoons or so of tomato paste. And we are going to stir that into the rice until it's mixed Mostly into all of the rice. There might be some bits that that don't get coated in tomato paste, but we'll aim for getting most of it this nice kind of reddish orange color. And once the tomato paste is worked into the rice, we will add 2 cups of broth or stock to the pot. And that should come to a boil pretty quickly. We'll turn the heat up a little bit. Stir so that there aren't any clumps of rice and tomato paste lurking here. And once you've done that, you'll cover the pot and wait for that to come up to a boil, and then turn the heat down to a low simmer for about 20 minutes or so, just until the rice has completely absorbed the liquid. A quick note about salt: if you are using unsalted or barely salted stock or broth, and by the way, that can be tomato, or not tomato, that can be vegetable or chicken stock, whatever you prefer. Turkey stock even would work. All right, but if it is unsalted or very lightly salted, you'll want to add a bit of salt to taste. I've used vegetable stock that is salted there, so no other salt needed for me. All right, so I see my bubbles are already happening here. So I will put the lid on, turn the heat down since it's already come to a boil, and just make sure that maintains a bare simmer for about 20 minutes or so. And we will check in on this and see it when it is just about done. 20 minutes have passed and our rice has absorbed all of its delicious cooking liquid, which means it is done. All that's left to do now is to plate it up with some beans, tortillas, a few of our favorite salsas, and enjoy. We hope you give this a try and you check back every Friday for a new video.